All right, so let's start. Um, Welcome to the third phase of the class, which is a JavaScript. We started with our HTML, which is the building block of any website. No matter the website you want to work on, you need the HTML because that's what is going to give you all the content that you have on the screen there, like the text, the image, and a lot of other things that you want to display to the user. You need the HTML. But the HTML cannot work alone or it cannot work on its own. We need something that we can use to make it look attractive to the user of the site there. And what are you going to be using? You are going to be using the CSS, which is the language that allows you to style the content that you have on the screen. And as you can see from here, I have this design, but HTML cannot do something like that, like this for you. You need a CSS to arrange the content the way you want it to be on the screen there. Now, after you are done arranging the content, something is still missing. What is missing there? The interaction. Because when you go to some sites, you see that the way this site behave, everything that we have been doing since cannot do anything like that. For example, here, what I want to do is that anytime I click on this button, I want it to pop out, or I want it to change the letter that is inside the box, or I want it to do something for me when the button is clicked. But right now, if I click on this button from now to tomorrow, nothing will happen because the button doesn't know how to interact with the user. So it's not left for you to talk to the button by telling this button that, okay, button, anytime someone click on you, this is what I want you to do. Okay, anytime someone click on this button B, I want you to change the color from this current one to blue or to any color. Or anytime someone click on you C, I want you to change your letter to the full word there. Maybe it's going to be class, it's going to be cup or whatever stuff. Here is just like normal letter, but once you click on it, it's going to expand and it will refill the full word to you. But in order for you to do all this thing, you need JavaScript. So JavaScript is a language that adds interaction to the web or to website there. So with that JavaScript, you can't add any of this stuff that I just mentioned right now. Or for example here, this box, as you are typing inside it, I want whatever you are typing here to appear on this button. Right now, you can't do anything like that with your HTML and CSS. It will not happen. So you need JavaScript to add the interaction to the page. Even look at the Google Meet that we're using right now. If you look at it, there are some buttons down here, and all these buttons can perform action for you. But without JavaScript, all these buttons here cannot function at all. It's because Google Meet has already added JavaScript to all these buttons. That's the reason why they are working. So if I click on this second to the last button here, you see that it's going to bring some option outside here. And in order for this thing to be possible, Google Meet is using JavaScript, and they are talking to this button that anytime someone click on you, I want you to pop out these items here, and they click on you again, I want you to close the item if it is not if it is open. So if the stuff is not open, open it, but if it is open, close it. So how do you talk to your element to behave the way you want it to be? That's where JavaScript comes in. And this thing is what you always see on all the sites that is online. Any site that requires interaction, you need JavaScript. Like this site here now, if I click on this box, as you can see, something is coming out and some stuff is going on here. Without JavaScript, you can't do this. So if I click on it again, see that it's closed, and look at the icon there. The icon is facing down right now because it's not open. But once I click on it and it is open, you see that the icon is facing up. This is the work of JavaScript behind the scene here, like that. And you can do a lot of things on the site with JavaScript. The same thing here too. Or I can use this one to change my theme from the light one to the dark one. And as you can see, it's still popping out. And once I click on it, as you can see, it switched the theme of the site from the dark one to the light one. And if I go back again and click on the dark, you see that the color will change. How do you do something like this? Like you click on something, something else is happening somewhere. This is the magic of JavaScript there. But this thing doesn't happen instantly like that. And as you can see from my this welcome note there, I welcome to JavaScript, home of headache and sleepless nights. This thing doesn't just come like that. There is some stuff you need to know about under JavaScript before you can start adding all this magic to your site. Like some of the sites that we work on are there is some things that are missing. Like you can't really interact with the element there. You only have the design, but they are kind of useless because the user cannot interact with them. And a lot of sites that we have these days, the user or the site is always working with the user there. And what I mean by working with the user can interact with the site. Like this image resize site now. So if I want to resize any image, I just need to select my image. But look at it, I click on something, and after clicking on it, it open my folder here where I need to pick the image that I want to resize. So click on it. But by default, this thing doesn't know that it's supposed to do like this. You will have to be the one that will have to do this design. And when you are done with the design, you need to talk with the element that anytime someone click on you, we want to open a file picker where the user can pick any file. By default, if you click anywhere that is not having any JavaScript, as you can see here, I'm clicking on this side, nothing is happening because no JavaScript attached to this area. But this button here, if I click on it, you see that it's going to open the file picker for me. And if I go there and pick any image that I want to resize here and open, you see that it will start uploading, and you see that the new UI open up, and I have this content where I can interact with any of these elements. For example, here I can change this thing to 67 and this one too here, and it's going to do whatever it needs to do with my image. Or look at it here, there's a lot of things going on there. And if I click on this side, you see that it's showing another element, and if I go to the dimension, another UI is coming out here. But I'm clicking on this element in order for that thing to happen. And what is going on here is one of the goodies that you get when you are using JavaScript on your page. Because without JavaScript, you cannot add interaction. All this element will just be looking at you without knowing what to do. So if I click on this class from now till tomorrow, nothing will happen. But later on, by the time you understand the basic JavaScript that you can use to add interaction to your element, you can talk to this text that anytime someone click on it, you want to change the color to another one instead of it to be this particular black color that is there. So when someone click on it, the color will switch from this black and it will change to that color that you want there, like that. And that's where the power of JavaScript comes in. So with JavaScript, you can interact with the elements that you have on the page. But before you can start doing all this thing, there is some stuff you need to know. Just like you know from the HTML, before you can start generating the element, you need to know about the tag. You need to know how to generate the page structure, and again too, how to put all these elements together. And again too, before you can start using CSS, you need to know how to include CSS on the page, how to target element on the page, and some of the properties you can use on the element. Here too, we have some outline that we need to follow before we can start doing all this magic that I've been showing you since there, like that. And the first one, which is the most important one, there is how do we include JavaScript on our page. Just like your CSS, you don't just do anything anyhow there. You need to connect it to the HTML. So here too, how do you connect JavaScript to the page? So in order for you to connect JavaScript to the page, we have the internal method and we have the external method. So we have the internal method and we have the external method. So for the internal one, I'll be showing you how it looks like, and for the external one too, I'm going to show you how you can connect to external. By now you know what is external. External means you have a file somewhere. It can either be in your project or it's coming from online, but you want to connect it to your HTML page. But if you are talking about internal one, it means whatever you want to do, it's going to be inside your HTML file. So whatever JavaScript you want to do is going to be inside your HTML file, but we won't be following that pattern. I will show you how to do it, but we are not going to be using it because when you are working on a project, you always separate them into different files there because you want to manage each one of them separately. Just like the way we have the CSS in its own file and we have this HTML in its own file too, and we connect them together through this link here. The same way we are going to be using external method for our JavaScript, but you need to know what is the internal one and the external one there, like that. I hope you guys are following. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Yeah. So now, how do we include JavaScript? We have this internal. So what is internal method of including JavaScript? So anytime you want to include JavaScript, it can be anywhere on the page. When you want to include JavaScript, it can be anywhere on the page. But by convention, you normally see it being added at the edge of the page, and we normally add it again before the closing tag of the body. But you can add JavaScript anywhere on the page, and it's only going to start working from that line by the time the code gets to that particular area there. So just like the way we have the link inside the head here, you can include the script or the JavaScript inside this particular head too. And as you can see from the suggestion here that my AI is bringing out there, to include JavaScript onto your page is just by using this script tag. So this script tag is what you are going to use to include JavaScript on the page. So, and if I click on it, this tag you are seeing now, this is what we refer to as internal method of including JavaScript on the page. So whatever you are doing inside this tag is all about JavaScript. So everything here is all about JavaScript like this. So you are no more in the HTML world, you are now in the JavaScript world. Just like the way we have the style. So you know, if you use style like this, everything you are doing inside this style, this is all about CSS. So this is all about CSS. So all let me bring it like this, all about CSS. Here too, when you are inside this particular tag, everything you have there is all about JavaScript. So when you are inside this place, everything you are doing there is all about JavaScript. So yeah, all about JavaScript. And this is what we call our internal method of including JavaScript. So whatever we are going to be talking about later on here, you are going to be dealing with them inside the script when you are dealing with internal method. Yeah, for example, here we can actually send a message to the browser here. So how do we send a message to the browser? So currently here now, it's not that easy to quickly work with from here and start modifying the content on the page. It's not that easy. There's some stuff you need to know about JavaScript first before you start modifying the content on the page. And before we get to that one, I will always send all the message, like all the results that you are going to be seeing on the screen by using this console log here. And this console log here is a way of sending message from JavaScript to the browser console. And what is browser console? This is the area on your browser where you can interact with JavaScript and see the results of whatever the JavaScript is doing there. And this is where you are going to start from before you start manipulating the content on the page, because there are some basic constructs of JavaScript that you need to know before you start jumping to the side of this document here, which is where you now start modifying the content on the page. But before you start modifying the content on the page, as you can see, there's some basic stuff that you need to know about first before you jump into modifying the content. But since we are going to be doing all this thing outside of what is going on our page, how do we see the results? That's where the console comes in. And this console, it's something that is built in into your browser that you can use to interact with the JavaScript there without you dealing with anything on the page. Even though you can do something there that is dealing with the page, but from our code, we are going to be sending message from here, or the result of the calculation that we're going to be doing here, into the console before we get to the time that we'll be able to manipulate the content on the page. And how do we send message to the console? To send message to the console is by calling the console that is given to us. So this thing is given to you by the browser there. So just call the console, followed by the dot, and followed by this log. I will explain whatever I'm passing here into it like this. Why do I need to use this code? And that's this one we said we need some basic construct so that you understand the reason why there's a code around this hello world JavaScript like this, like that. But for now, when you want to or when I enter I want to send message to the console of the browser there, this is what I will always use here, which is the console log. And inside the bracket, I will pass whatever message that I want to send to the browser. But what is this bracket doing here? What is this dot doing here? By the time we get to this side, you are going to understand what is that dot doing there. And by the time we get here, you are going to understand what this bracket is all about. And that's the reason why you need all this construct first before you start modifying the content on a page, because all these things we are going to be using them later on by the time we start modifying the content on the page. So JavaScript is the language that you use to manipulate the content on the page or to add interaction to the page. But before you can start adding all these goodies, there is some stuff you need to know about JavaScript, and that's what we'll be using this basic construct for. And since we are not going to be modifying the content at first, then we need to see the result of everything that we are doing. So how do we see the result? We are going to be sending the message to the console of the browser. And how do you send a message to the console? Is by using this console that is given to us by the browser there, and on it we have this log. A log is just a way of sending message there. We have a lot of them. We have the error, and we have other type of message you can send. But for now, we are just going to send a log. A log is just like info. You are sending information to the log, and whatever you pass inside this bracket here, that's what is going to show inside the browser console log. But I've saved this in now. I can't see anything that I just type here on the browser. So how do we see the console of the browser? That's where the dev tools comes in. Don't forget, when we are dealing with the CSS, we actually use our dev tools to inspect the HTML and to inspect the CSS that we send to the browser. We're able to use the console log, we're able to use the dev tools to look at the CSS that the browser is applying on the page and the one that is not applying on our element, or what is going on with the content on the page in general. We use our dev tools. Here too, we are going to be using dev tools a lot to see all the message that we are sending to the console. And how do you bring your dev tools? We have different ways that I've already explained to you. One way is by right clicking on any side on the page and click on inspect here, or another way is by clicking on these three dots if you are using Chrome, and you go to this more tools, and under the more tools down here you are going to see this developer tools. So one way of bringing out the developer tools, right click on anywhere on the page, you are going to see the specs. So it's going to bring out the, as you can see, it's bringing out here, but we are able to use these elements and the CSS part. But this is not the only thing that the dev tool is giving you. It's giving you the console too, where you can interact with the JavaScript there. And I'm going to be showing you soon there. If I close it again here, I can go to this more tools. Under the more tools, you are going to see the developer tools. And if you click on it, it will still show you the same thing. Or you can use the shortcut that the stuff is showing us. If you look at it, the far right end here, there is this shortcut that you can use, which is this Control plus Shift and plus I. And if you hold all of them, the three stuff together, and you press it on your keyboard there, it's going to bring out the same thing. So whether you right click on the page and you inspect, or you go to these three dots here and you go to the more tools and you click on the developer tools, you are still going to get to the same place. It all depends on which one you want to use here. So we need this dev tools so that we can see the message that we are sending from our code, because right now we don't know how to interact with the content of the page, and we still want to deal with this basic construct. And how do you see the result of all this basic construct there? We need the console log in order for us to be able to see the result of everything that we are going to be doing with all these topics that are here. And how do you see all the topics? You need the console that is baked into the browser. But how do you see that console? You need to enter the dev tools. And how do you show the dev tools? Is by right clicking on the page and inspect, or you use Control Shift I to bring out the dev tools out, or you can click on these three dots, go to more tools, and you are going to see the developer tools there. I hope you guys are following. Hope you are following. So let me increase this thing a little bit. So I hope you are still there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you are still here. Yeah, so
Yes, sir. I see
Yes.
it, sir.
Yeah. So now, how do we see our console? Because right now, the only thing we can see is our HTML code and our CSS code. So how do we see the console? Because console is all about JavaScript. So how do you see the console? The way my console is displayed right now might be quite different from your own because you are not using Edge. Currently, I'm using Edge, and the way my own is displaying side like this, that's not the same way your own is going to display, but it's still the same thing. If you look for where you have the console here, you are going to see there. But from your own side, you are not going to have it like this. You are not going to have it side by because you are not using Edge. So let me open another browser there that is going to look like the way it will be showing from your own side so that you can see it there. So this is my Chrome here. So if I press the same thing, because the way it work on one browser, that's the same way it work on other browser that look like Chrome there. So Edge is just like Chrome. So if you hold down your shift and control plus I, it's going to bring out the dev tool. And as you can see here, as you can see the way it's being arranged here, see that it's different from the way the Edge is showing. But if you look at it at the top, as you can see that it's showing console. So this is the console here. But the way it's displaying on my own browser currently, that's not the way it's going to show, because my own is only showing icon. It's not showing the text. But if you look at it, if you hover on any one of them, it will tell you their element or the interface they are going to show to you. So for the first one, this is the element, which is the same thing as what I'm having here. As you can see, the element is here. This even though that one is using icon, the functionality is still going to be the same there, no difference. So if you look at the top of this side, this is how it's going to look like in Chrome. And on top of everything, you are going to see different tools that you can use. One of them is this element, which is what we have been using for our CSS, that show us the element and the style that we're applying on them. But the one we want to use right now for JavaScript is this console here. So from your own side, if you are using Chrome, this is what you need to click on in order for you to see what is going on with JavaScript, anything that you are sending to the console. But from my own side, everything is laid out to the side like this, not at the top. And as you can see, that is still the same name that they are using, no different. Just that my own is using icon. And if you hover on any of the icon, it will tell you what this icon is representing there. And if you look at it there, this one is my console. And if I click on it here, as you can see, the message that was sent from our code here is now showing inside the browser console. So where is this message coming from? It's coming from this script. So whatever stuff you are sending from your script through the console there, they are going to appear on the console. So look at it. This message here is what I'm sending to the console. So from here, I'm sending it to this console. So whatever you are using this console log to do, it will always appear in this area here. So this is the entire console. Let me clean everything. So this is the entire console here. So this box here is what we call console there, like that. And you can use this thing to interact with JavaScript, or you can send a message to it from your code through this console log here. And whatever you pass into this console log, that's what you are going to see inside this place. So for now, we're only going to be using console log. But when we get to the part that we can interact with the content on the page, you'll see that whatever we'll be doing from our JavaScript, it will be affecting the content on the page. But for now, we don't know how to do that. Why we don't know how to do that? What's the reason why? It's because there's some basic constructs that we need to know about before you start manipulating the content on the page. And what are the basic constructs? We need this basic data type, we need variable, we need what is our operator here, we need some of this complex data type, which is this two that I'll be talking about. This is not all, but I'll be talking about this basic one here, which is this array and object. We're going to talk about the function before we now get to the document object model, which is what you're now going to be used there, which is what you'll be using to manipulate the content on the page. So you are going to use it to talk to this text that anytime someone click on you, I want you to change your text to uppercase, or I want you to change your letters to small. I want you to change your letter to small letter, or anytime someone click on you, I want you to change the color. But before you can start doing all those stuff, you need to understand all these basic constructs first. And where are we going to be seeing the result of the basic construct? This is our console. And what are we going to be using to send message to the console there? We are going to be using this console log. Then inside the console log, we pass whatever message that we want to send to the browser there. And as you can see from the code, we are able to send this message here, which is a hello world JavaScript. So, and how do you do that? The first thing you need to do is to include your JavaScript. And how do you include JavaScript? We have this internal method, which is what we are currently using. So the internal method is just you having all your JavaScript inside the HTML file. So all your JavaScript are inside HTML file. And when you're talking about the external one, it means your JavaScript file is inside its own separate file and you are now connecting it to the HTML file. Just like the way we normally do with our CSS. If you look at it, we have a CSS here, which is this style.css. It's a separate file somewhere, and we are connecting it to our HTML file. But that doesn't mean you cannot do CSS inside HTML. You can still do it by using this embedded method or by using the inline method that we've talked about. And here too, for the JavaScript, we have the internal one and we have the external one. And currently, the one I'm using here is what we call internal JavaScript here, because of using the internal method. And everything you have inside script is all about JavaScript. You are not doing anything with HTML here. Even though you are inside HTML file, once you enter this tag, everything here is all about JavaScript. All suggestions you'll be getting from here is all about JavaScript. You will not get anything related to HTML. Once you are inside this tag, your code editor, which is this VS Code, understand that you are dealing with JavaScript, and whatever suggestion is going to be giving you there is going to be all about JavaScript. The same thing with your CSS too. If you are inside this style, whatever you'll be doing here, JavaScript, the code editor know that you are dealing with CSS, and all the suggestion you'll be getting from here is going to be all about CSS. As you can see from here, it's showing me all these things. So if I use background here, it's going to bring all the stuff that's related to the background there. And you can see this is a CSS stuff going on here right now. So once you enter this script tag, everything you'll be doing here is all about JavaScript. You cannot do any HTML stuff here. If you try it, you get error because this thing will be expecting you to do JavaScript stuff. But what are the JavaScript stuff? We are going to get into them by following the basic construct or topics that we have on the screen are there. So we have internal and we have external method of connecting to JavaScript. But the one we have right now is the internal one, which means we are putting JavaScript inside the HTML file. And how you do that is by using the script tag, and inside the script tag you can do anything related to JavaScript. But I won't be using this method. Why am I not going to be using this method? Is because I want to separate JavaScript from the HTML there. So everything I want to do, I will have them inside the JavaScript file, and anything related to HTML, it will be in its own file, and anything related to CSS, it will be in its own file too, just like what is going on here. But right now, we don't have anything inside our JavaScript file, and as you can see, I've already created this file here, which is this index.html, because when you want to work with external JavaScript, you need to have the file, and you know that every file used to have extension. So we have the extension for the HTML, we have the extension for CSS, and we have extension for JavaScript. So for HTML, the extension is just HTML that is there. What's that?
Yeah, hello, sir. I'm not seeing your screen, sir.
You're not seeing my screen?
What did you want? Yes, sir.
Let me stop and share again. It can be your network. But let me share and share. Let me stop sharing and share the stuff again.
Okay, sir.
So I'll continue from here. So how do you connect to the external file there, which is the JavaScript file? So your file, you can name it anything, just like the way you can name your HTML. But the major thing here is the extension. So the extension have to end with .js. That's how this thing is going to recognize it as a JavaScript file. But now, how do we connect to this, our external file? For example, here, I have some JavaScript code here. And what I want to have, I just want to add this console log there so hello from JavaScript index.js file. But if I save this code now and go back to the page, you see that nothing is happening. Even though the page has reload, we are not seeing the message. Why are we not seeing the message? Is because the JavaScript file is not connected to the HTML file. Before this thing can work, or before we can see whatever we have inside this file, we need to connect it to the HTML file. And how do you connect it to the HTML file? It's still the same script that you are going to be using, but you'll be using this external method. For the internal one, just call script tag, and inside the script tag, you can do anything that you want. So this is what we refer to as a internal method. But right now, I don't want to do with anything internal. What I want to do right now is external. So which means I want to connect to my external JavaScript, which is that my index.js. And how do I do this? So we need to connect the two of them together. So how do you do the stuff? You are going to be using the script, but the script tag needs to receive a particular attribute, and that attribute is the source, which is the way we have it here. So in order for you to connect to the external script, you need to use script, but it's going to have an attribute source here. So when you are dealing with inline method, which is the internal method, you are going to use script without these attributes. But when you are dealing with external JavaScript, you need to have this source. And inside this source, you pass the location of where the file is coming from. If it is online, copy the script and paste it inside the source. But if it is something that you have already in your project file here, you know that you need to use internal linking. And we've already talked about this one when we are dealing with linking in the HTML pattern. And here, you can see my structure. The three files are together. So the HTML, the index.html, index.js, and the style.css. And since they are inside the same folder, I can use the same folder linking. And what's the same folder linking? Just mention the name of the file, followed by the extension of the file there. So what I just did here on this line is what we revert to as a external method of including JavaScript on our page. So this is what we refer to as external method of including JavaScript on the page. So here, what is going on here is the internal one. So anytime you have script and that script is not having source, then it is an internal one. So which means whatever you want to do will be happening inside your HTML file. But if you are using this second method here, which is the same thing as the first one, the difference there is just this source that we are passing inside. And this source is what you are going to use to connect to the file that is holding all your code, all your JavaScript code. So here, I'm connecting to a file that I created, and it is inside the same folder as this index.html. Because if you check it, you see that both of them are inside this JS folder. And since they are inside the same folder, I just need to mention the name of the file, followed by the extension of the file there. So here now, I'm connecting to external JavaScript. And whenever that is happening inside this file, the browser is going to load them and is going to interpret everything. And if I save it now, you see that we are now getting the message from that file. So if you look at it now, we are getting the message from the file. So we are getting the message from the file. So where this thing coming from? It's coming from our index.js. So this is the message, and I'm sending it to the console. But how does the browser get the message? It's because we are connecting our index.html to our index.js. And how do we do that? We call our script, but we are not just calling the script alone. We are passing this attribute along with the location or the file that we want to connect to. And as you can see here, we are able to connect to what is happening inside this file here. But don't forget, this console, you can do anything from there, because I will be using them together. I'll be using the file and I'll be doing it inside this console here, because you can actually run JavaScript code inside this console. For example, here, if I do 2 plus 2, you see that it's interpreting my stuff here. We're going to talk about this one when we get to these operators here. You're going to know more about what is going on here, like that. But if you can see here, I was able to send a message through this console here too. Not that you need a JavaScript file, because you can do the same. From the console, you can do anything related to JavaScript and it's still going to work. You can even interact with the content of the page. It will still work. For example, here now, I can quickly select something on the page, but right now, forget about this one. You are going to know how to do all this thing later on, like that. But I just want to show you that you can actually do whatever you do from your normal JavaScript file inside this place like that. So if you look at it now, and if I change the color, I can set it to red. And if I press it, can you see now? The color changed to red. But where is this color coming from? It's coming from JavaScript, because JavaScript is powerful. You can use it to manipulate the content on a page. But what are these nonsense that I just type here? What is nonsense that I just type here? That's the reason why you need this basic construct. Because by the time you're done with the basic construct, you understand what is going on with this dot, you understand what this bracket is doing, you understand what this equal to or this symbol is doing here, you understand what this code is doing, and so forth like that. So that's the reason why you need basic construct before you start manipulating the content on the page. So if I just jump to this side and you start doing something like this, what is going on here? What am I doing? You'll not be able to grab it. And that's the reason why you need the construct. And where are we going to be learning all this basic construct? We are going to be learning this stuff from the console. But here, you can do everything directly from the console, or you do it from the JavaScript file. But I don't want to be doing it from the console. What is the advantage of doing it for the console? The disadvantage is that if I reload the page, everything that I do on the console, everything will disappear and things will go back to the normal way. And as you can see, everything that I typed before are gone. But if you look at it, everything that is coming from the file will still always be there. Everything that is coming from the JavaScript file will still always be there. So for the record's sake, I will always be typing stuff from here, but we are going to be seeing the results on the console. And some of them, I have to practicalize it on the console directly so that you can see the result instantly. So, and a lot of them, I will type it from the JS file, but we are going to be seeing the result on our console. And when we are good with this, our basic construct, then we'll be able to manipulate the content of the page, just like what I show you now. From JavaScript, I was able to change the color of the text. I'm not doing it from CSS. I'm not doing it from the HTML. I was able to do it through JavaScript, because JavaScript is powerful. You can use it to manipulate the content of the page. You can use it to manipulate the style, and you can use it to add interaction to the elements on the page there. So JavaScript is really powerful. But before you can start using all these goodies, you need to understand how to work with JavaScript. Because here now, I just type some nonsense here, which is the document. After it, I type dot. Why do I need to type dot? What's the reason why this dot is there? Why do I need to call this query selector and whatever stuff like that? That's the reason why you need all this outline that I've already put out there. And once you understand all this concept, then we'll put everything together. And by the time we put everything together, we'll be able to manipulate the content that we have on the screen there. But the first thing you need to do anytime you want to work with JavaScript is to include it in your project. And how do you include it in your project? You either use the internal method or this external method. But I will always use the external one, but I've already shown you how you can include both of them. Here, this is what we call internal, because the script inside it, you pass whatever you want to do there. But I don't want to be doing everything from the HTML, so I'm connected to this external JavaScript file. And here, this is what we call the external method. And another thing that I mentioned is that you can place your JavaScript anywhere on the page, because if you look at it right now, I place it inside the head and it is working. But here, we don't normally place our script inside the head because of something that will be happening later on. What we normally do is to place the script before the closing tag of the body. So this is where we normally place our script. And if I save it here, and if I paste everything here, and if I save, you still see that nothing is changing in our console log, because you can place your JavaScript anywhere on the page. But by convention, based on some stuff that will be happening later on that I don't want to get into right now, I will be placing the script at the bottom part, because I only have one script. I won't be having any other thing again later, because this is the only script that we have there. And from this index.js, that's where I'm going to explain all the constructs that you need to know about JavaScript are there. But when you want to work with JavaScript, you need to include it on your page. And how do you include it on your page? You need to call this script. If you want to deal with the external one, you pass the source. If you are not dealing with the external one, then you just call your script, and inside the script you do whatever you need to do inside it. But I will not be using this method again. I will not be using this method because the two of them are just internal method. What I always be using is this external one because I want to connect to another file, and inside this file, that's where I'm going to carry out all the operations that I want to do there like that. And as you can see from this external one, we are able to communicate with the console of the browser, because the console is where you can test out your JavaScript code without you doing anything on the page there like that. And this is what we are going to be using to learn about all these basic constructs that we have here like that. So one of the basic construct here is this console log that I've been using since, which is what you'll be using to send message to the console if you are dealing with file. But if you're already on the console, you don't even need to use that console log. Just do whatever you want to do, testing here, and you see that it will work instantly there like that. But if you are working with a file and you want to send message to the console, you need to use this console log. But if you're already on the console, you don't need to do anything like that. Just pass whatever you want to display on the console and it's going to show. For example, here now, if I use 2 plus 2 like this, you see that we are getting the result instantly. But if you want to do the same thing from your script, you can't just type 2 plus 2 like this. If you type it, not that it will not work, it will work, but you are not going to see anything on the console there. You are not going to see anything. As you can see, nothing is showing. So in order for you to see the result on the console, you need to use a console log. So the console log is the one that is going to send message to the console. And now if I use 2 plus 2 inside that console log, you now see that the result is going to show on the console. Like, look at it now, it's not coming out. So before you can see the result on the console coming from the file, you need to use this console log. Without the console log, whatever you are doing here, it will only happen inside this file. You are not going to see it on the browser. So in order for you to see the result on the browser, you need to use the console log to send a message so that we can see the result of what we are doing from here. So anytime I need to do anything and that thing I need to show you the results, I will always use this console log so that you can see what that stuff is doing or the results of the operation that we are carrying out there like that. So I will always use this console log a lot to send it to the console there. But once we are good with the construct, we'll start manipulating the content on our page and won't be needing the console log like that again. We'll still be using it to see some stuff that we don't want to see on the page, but most of the time later on we are going to manipulate the content on the page. And since we are going to be manipulating the content on the page, we don't need the console. But if I still want to give you some stuff that needs to appear on the console, I will only use this console log there like that. So something I want to use right now, because I did not really put it on the list, which is something I'm supposed to put on the list there. I hope you guys are following. There is something I need to put on the list here, and that is comments. So before we go before we go into this type, but that's where I'm going to stop for today. I'm going to stop on this type. So because I see I have other call, this thing is listening to me. Comments. So yeah, I need a comment. And what is comment? I've already explained this thing from the HTML and the CSS part, and we have been using it a lot. Comment is just a text that you have in your code that you don't want to appear in your or the output there. So we have a comment. A comment is just a way of you leaving a text that explains what your code is doing, but you don't want it to be part of the output on the screen there. So for example here now, any code that I don't want to appear on my screen from this HTML here, what I just need to do is to comment it out. And I just did something like that down here by commenting out this script because I don't want it to do anything. Now it has been turned to comment. But the type of comment I'm doing here is what we refer to as HTML comment. So just like the way you have comment in HTML, we have comment in CSS, which is something we have been using a lot there. And again, we have comments in JavaScript. So when you want to create a comment in JavaScript, they are of two types. So when you want to create a comment in JavaScript, they are of two types. So which I'm going to put down here like that. So I'm going to send this HTML file. So anybody that wants to do some research online. So these are the outlines of the stuff you are going to be dealing. So we have this inline comments, and at the same time we have the multi-line comment in JavaScript. So in JavaScript we have two types of comment. We have inline. So inline means single line. So which means whatever comment you are creating there is always going to be on a single line. And how do you create a comment that is single line? Single line comment start with a double slash. So single line comment start with a double slash, and whatever that follows it is what we call single line comment, like this, or inline. So whether you call it inline or single line comment, is still the same thing. And what does this mean? It means whatever comment you are creating here, it will always be on that one line. And for the multi-line, the AI has already generated this thing for me. This is what we call multi-line comment here. And as you can see, the comment is spanning multi-line. This is line 1, line 2, line 3. But everything here, they are still comment. Because why do you create a single line comment? You are going to start with this forward slash, the double forward slash, and everything that follows it is a comment. But once you go to next line, this is not comment again. This is not comment. So because this comment there only work for the line where you have this slash. Once you go to next line, whatever that follows it is not a comment again, because it's only work for this single line, and that is why it is single line or inline comment. But you can actually convert this one to comment by just doing the same thing. So if you want the next one to be comment, you do the same thing, and so forth like that. This is what we call single line. Each line are going to be comment on their own, and once you move to a new line, it is not comment again. But at some time you want to have comment on a multiple line without you specifying this thing every time. So when you want to have comment on a different line without you specifying all this slash, then you can use multi-line comment. So how do you create a multi-line comment? It started with the same slash, but now it's just going to be two. It's just going to be single line, then followed by the asterisk, and anything that follow this asterisk is comment. This is comment, this is comment, this is comment, and everything will always be comment until you close it. So this is what you just did here, is to open the multi-line comment. Whatever that follows it will always be comment. It doesn't care whether it is on a new line or it's not on a new line. Everything will always be comment. But how do you stop it? To stop the comment, you reverse the symbols that you type here. To stop the comment, you reverse it by typing the asterisk, then followed by slash. So and now this is where the comment is starting from, and this is where the comment is stopping. So if you go to next line now, this is not a comment again, because you are now outside of the multi-line comment. So when you are creating a multi-line comment, you start with the slash followed by the asterisk, and everything that follows it will always be comment. In order for you to stop the comment, then you must reverse what you type here, which is what you now have down here, and it's going to stop the comment. And whatever that follows this one now will not be comment again. And I will always be using this thing to comment out some stuff I don't want to show, because I want to have a record of everything that we're doing, but I don't want some of them to still work because I'm explaining something and I don't want it to distract what I'm explaining there. And I still don't want to clean it. What do? I will just comment it out. For example, here now, this console log, I don't want to see it again, but I still don't want to remove it from this part, because one way of not seeing it again is by deleting everything. And if I save it, you'll see that I'm not seeing it on the screen again. But now I've lost everything that I typed. So how do I come back to this thing? I need a way of still retaining this content, but I don't want to show it in the console. What do? I comment it out. But here now, the content is still here, but the JavaScript is not going to see it again because it's non-comment. And anything that is comment, it will not interpret it. It will just see it as a normal text. And as you can see now, on the console here, there is no message coming out, because this stuff now is not a valid JavaScript again, is now commented. So comment is really useful when you need to leave a text for yourself about what you are doing on that line, or there's some code that you don't want it to run and you don't want to delete it. What do? You comment it out. And anything that turns to comment, whether it's a code or it's not code, JavaScript is going to skip it, and it's going to continue with every other thing that you have on the page. And I will always use this thing a lot, because a lot of things that I will be typing, I want to have them down, and I still don't want to, I don't want to delete it. I want to have it, and I don't want it to show on the screen or show in the console. So what do? I will comment it out, and we have the record of it, so that later on we can go back to it when we are trying to use it them later on. You can just quickly go back. Okay, if you remember, this is what we talk about this thing, this is what is going on there, and so forth like that. So comment is very important, and I will always use it So comment and some stuff that I don't want to delete, I still want to have them, and I don't want to show it in the console there like that. Hope you guys are following. So JavaScript is a language that you use interaction to the content on this page here. But before you start adding all this content, or before you start manipulating all this thing there, you need to include JavaScript to your page. And we already talked about 2 ways of including JavaScript on our page. And after that, we need to start with this our basic construct. And one of them is this console log that I've explained, which is what you use to send a message to the console. Again, I've talked about the comments, which is what you use to leave a note for yourself in your code. You know, the HTML have its own comment, CSS have its own comment, and JavaScript now, I'm giving you how you can comment comment things in JavaScript there by using the inline method or by using the multi-line method. So for the inline method, it means you are having each comment on its own line. So each one of them here are inline comment. All of them here are inline comment because each one of them are on their own separate line. But at some time, you don't want to start typing this slash every time when you want to have comment on a different line. You have a lot of comment and they are together. So you don't need to you don't need to be using all this slash every time. You can combine everything together by using multi-line comment. And multi-line comment starts with this, and multi-line comment end with this. And everything that is in between these two symbol here, they are referred to as multi-line comment. So here, this is another multi-line comment. Why this one is a single line comment? Because after this line, everything is just normal JavaScript again there like that. So comments are very important because there's sometimes what you are doing, you need to leave a text for yourself that this is the reason why I'm doing this thing, or this is the reason why I have to do this thing, or this thing here later on, if I don't remember what I'm trying to do here, this text should point me to where I need to get the full context of what is going on with what I'm doing. Or that sometimes there's some code you don't need again, but you still don't want to delete them. You can just comment them out, and you have the copy, but it's not going to do anything for you again like that. Comments are very important for something like what I just mentioned now. So yeah, comments are very important. So what's the next thing that we need to talk about? The next thing we need to talk about here is this basic data type in JavaScript. So basic data type in JavaScript. I hope you guys are following. We have a few minutes left, and I'll be stopping types.
Yes, sir.
And in the next class, we're going to be talking about variables, operators, and this complex type. Those are the stuff we're going to talk about in the next class. So yeah, we have this basic type because in JavaScript, everything is based on type. In JavaScript, everything is based on type. Because type determines the operation and how you interact with the data that you have there. So the data type determines the operation and how you interact with the value that you are working with. The data type determines how the operation that you can carry out on a type, on a value, and some of the stuff you can do with them. Data types is the one that dictates the operation and how you can interact with value. And in JavaScript, we have basic types. And some of the basic types that we have is what is showing on the screen here. So we have number type. So we have number type. As you can see, anything number, they are in this form. But in JavaScript, we have different types of number, which I'm not going to go deeper into this thing, but just know that all of them are number. For example, now if I type 2, this is number. It's a valid number. -3 is a valid number. If I use 48, this is a valid number. So 48,000. So what is this underscore here? Underscore here is just to separate thousands. Just like the way you normally use comma when you are writing it down. So when you want to write it down, what you actually write down is 42,000 or 48,000. But in JavaScript, this comma is doing something else. You can't use comma to separate number. So what do you use to separate thousands? We use underscore. Underscore is just the same thing as you using comma here to separate your number in JavaScript there like that. So you don't just use comma here. If you use comma, you get error. Because in JavaScript, things are you have to follow every of the constructs in the same way that the JavaScript is giving you. You can't just do anything anyhow. This is not HTML that you can do things anyhow. Here, if you type 48 and you now use comma here, and once I save it, can you see what is going on? So you not get what you're expecting. No, this thing will be doing something else. So to separate 1,000, we don't use comma here because comma is doing something else. What you have to use is this underscore. So here now, if I want to have 48, this in there. So if you can see, we have no. I need to have this one here like that. So we have this 48 million like that. So we have thousands, and you can actually, which is this 480,000 like that, or whatever store you want to do, you can combine them together. So I have 480,000 like this, or if I want, I have the 4,000, and I can even go more than that depending on whatever you are doing. So which is going to give me the million like this. Or if I want, I can just go with this 48 million. It's not a must that you put this underscore there. You don't need to put it, but for reading sake, that's the reason why you can use this underscore. It's not a must that you put underscore when you are dealing with 1,000. You can just type it, just that it will not be readable. And if you want your 1,000 to be readable, then you can separate it with underscore there like that. It's not a must, but what I'm talking about here is number in general. So in JavaScript, we have number, and the number is of different type, but for now, just know that everything is number. So when you say 1, 1 is number. 1.5 is number. So 0.5 here is number. Again, too, if I have 1e2, this is another number here. But this is what we call base 10 here. So this 1e2, it's a way of you writing 1 times 10 raised to power 2. In JavaScript or in your this in here, there's no way you can write over 10. Let me type this in so you can understand what is going on here. So what am I trying to do here? What I'm doing here is this. So what is going on? This 1e is the same thing as 1 times, because what is going on there is this 1 times 10 raised to power 2. So this times 10 raised to power 2 is what this e2 is doing there. So this e is representing x and 10, because you cannot type something to go to raised to power from your keyboard. There's no way you can put something to be raised to power from your keyboard. So how are you now going to represent this stuff here? That's where the e comes in. So the e is representing times 10. Whatever number that follows it is representing the number that you want to place on top of the 10. And that's the reason why you see that we are getting 100 here. Because 1 times 10 raised to power 2 is the same thing as you multiplying 1 by 10 raised to power 2. What is 10 raised to power 2? That is just 100. 1 times 100 is still going to be 100 like that. So the same way, you can use it for other mathematics scientific notification there. But right now, we don't care about all the scientific notification. What we care about is normal number. But when you are dealing with something that deals with scientific notification there, you can actually use this e to represent whatever that is going on there. The same way too, I can use 2.5 e raised to power minus 5. So what does this mean? What this means is that you have this number like this. You have 2.5 like that, then times 10 raised to power minus 5. Don't forget, this e is representing times 10, and whatever number that follows it is whatever you are raising to the power of this 10. And the reason why they have to do it like that is because you cannot type anything like raised to power from your keyboard. And since you cannot type something like that, we need a way of representing something like that. And that's the reason why we have this e. But all of them here are what we refer to as number. So in JavaScript, the type can either be number, it can be string, it can be boolean, or it can be this other type that is quite different from what you normally deal with there. So what is number? Number is any normal number that you are used to. 1, 2, 30, 45, 60, and so forth like that. But we have different modes of representing number. We have the base 10. Don't forget, all this thing is from your school there. And what I'm typing here is base 10. Everything that I'm doing here is base 10. So we have these 2 or 3, 4. Everything here is base 10. But apart from base 10, we have base 16, we have base 8, like that. We have base 2. So how do you represent all this number? I don't care about them right now because we are not going to be dealing with them. But anytime we need them later on, I will bring them in because I don't want to waste time. We want to focus on what we are going to be using, not the one that we are not going to be using right now. So since we are only going to be focusing on base 10, I'm only showing the base 10, but you can actually have base 16, you can have base 8, and you can have base 2. But for now, I don't care about them. I only want to focus on base 10. And anything in this form, I revert to as number. But apart from number, how do you represent text in your code? Apart from number, how do you represent text in your code? So we have three ways of representing text in your code. So we have three ways of representing text in the code here, because our text are not the same thing as number. And when you want to deal with text, you don't just type the text. For example, now if I just type Abdul Rakib like this thing, it will just give me error. Can you see what is going on? JavaScript is going to give me error because it doesn't know what is Abdul Rakib. It doesn't know that I'm dealing with a text. So when you are dealing with a text, we have the way we normally use to represent text. You don't just type text anyhow. We have the way we represent it, and text is what we refer to as string. So anytime you hear the word string, it's the same thing as text. But here in the code, we call it string. And how do you represent string? Don't forget, anytime I'm talking about string, it's the same thing as text. So whether I call it text or I call it string, but I always mention string because that's the that is the name that we give to it. So text is anything, or string is anything that is inside a double quote, inside a single quote, or inside a backtick. So let me put all this in so that you can remember them. So let me put it in the notes. So when you want to create, or when you want to work with the text, you can either use the double quote method, or you can use a single quote method, or you can use a backtick method. All of them are going to work, but let me list them out so that we can have them as a reference there, like that. So when you want to deal with a string, which is text, we have different ways of representing it. You can either use a double quote. So we have the double quotes like that. We have the single quotes, and we have the backtick. So we have the single, this is not single, and we have the backtick. So these are the three different ways of representing your string. So we have the backtick like this. So what is backtick? Backticks always use, this is what we call backtick here. So backtick. What is backtick? Look at it. The backtick is this. What is single quote? Single quote is just you putting the text in this single quote that you have from your keyboard. And what is the double one? You are using the double quote instead of a single one. So these are the different ways of representing text on your string, on the page there. So when you are dealing with text, it can either be in this double quote, which is what you are seeing on the screen here, or it can be inside this single quote, or it can be inside this backtick. Backtick is something that is different from the other one. How do you get the backtick from your keyboard? Backtick, you can get it, which is something that is beside one on your keyboard. If you look at your keyboard, you have 1, 2, 3 all the way to 0 at the top. But before that one, there is a key beside it. That key, that's where you are going to get backtick. Once you press it, it's going to bring the backtick for you. And these are the different way of you to represent text in your code are there. Anytime you want to deal with string, you don't type them. What do I mean by string? String is just text. And how do you represent text in your code? You have to put them inside double quotes. Yeah, for example, this is Abdul Rakib now. So if I do it like this, you see that it will work. As you can see, it's not complaining again. But if I just type Abdul Rakib like this without putting it in a code, it will complain because it's thinking of something here. And what is it thinking of here? We're going to be talking about it under this variable later on. Because anytime you type anything in this form, it will think it's a variable. But I will explain variable in the next class. And how do you talk to the JavaScript that you're not dealing with variable, you're only dealing with text? So you need to put it in a double quote, or you put it in a single quote like this. So whether you put it in a double quote, or you put it in a single quote, or you use backtick. Please look at it. Backtick is not the same thing as a single quote. Backtick is facing back. That's where the name is coming from. Look at single quote. It is straight, but if you look at the backtick, it is not straight at all. Backtick text. So when you are closing, and as you can see, it is still working. So these are the three different methods that you can use when you are representing your text. So when you are representing text, you either put it inside double quotes, or you put it inside single quotes, or you put it inside backtick. And that's when JavaScript is going to know that you are dealing with text. If you are dealing with text, you don't just type the text anyhow. For example, here, if I type this backtick text, it will complain. As you can see, it's telling me that it doesn't know where this thing is coming from. Why is he saying that? Is because he's thinking it is variable. But in order for this thing to think, okay, this is a text, so it's not variable, you either use this double quote, or this single quote, or this backtick here. And what is a string? String are just text. And please, and please, this one is number and this one is string. They are not the same thing. This is the number, this one is not number, this is string. Please look at it. The way it's representing this one is not the same way it's representing this one. And don't forget, data type is how the JavaScript is going to know the operation you need to perform on a particular value. Because your value can either be number, it can be string, it can be boolean, or it can be any of this other stuff that we're going to be talking about later on. But when you're representing number, please, we don't have quotes around number. When you're dealing with number, just type the number the way you normally type number on the paper. But when you're dealing with text, the text is always in a single quote, or it's going to be in this double quote, or this single quote, or this backtick here. These three here, they are not number. These three that you are seeing here, this one, and this one, the three of them are not number. They are string. Anything that is inside quotes, whether it is double, single, or backtick, they are string. They are not number. And the way you work with them is different from the way you work with number. And let me shock you now. You see it, what I'm trying to talk about. If I use 2 plus 2 now, what are you getting back? 4. But now if I do 2 that is inside quotes, can you see what is bringing out? They are not the same thing. And that's the reason why you need to know how to interact with the type. Because based on the type of the value you are using there, it will determine the operation that you can perform of them. When we are using number, you see that we get the normal mathematics that you are going to get there. But now that we are using string, look at what it's doing. It's doing something else. Which is, what is it doing here? It's just joining them together here. So what it's doing is that it joins these two to these two. And that's where it's get that 22. For example, if I do ABC, and if I do plus 2 like this, you see that it will just join them together. That's what string is doing with plus. But when you're dealing with normal number, you see that it's calculating it for you as normal mathematics. And that's the reason why you need to know different types of data that we have. And based on that type, some operation you'll be carrying out later on will be depending on the type of the data you are using. If you need number, you have to represent it in a number way. If you need text, you have to represent it in a text way, which is the string. And when you are dealing with the string, it's just this double quote, single quote, or this backtick here. I hope you guys are following.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir.
yeah,
But
when you
your
are
screen,
representing number, yes,
I'm not saying your screen. I'm just trying to follow with what you are saying.
okay, you are going to
It's
see it there because or let me try to reshare it. I don't, it's your next. So when you are dealing with number, you just type them the normal way you type on the paper. So 2 is 2, 3.5 is 3.5, 2 I'll be 23 is 25 is 25, 0.5 is 0.5, 1.5 times 10 raised to power 2. But here now, we don't know how to type times 10 raised to power 2. What we use is this E. E is just representing times 10. And whatever number that follows it, that's what is raising to the power there. So what you are doing here is 10 times 10 raised to power 2, which is going to be 100. Or whatever the stuff that is giving you there like that. Then multiply by 1.5, then you get your results which is the reason why it's giving us 150. But when you're dealing with string, which is what I call text, so you can represent it in different way. Because here now, if I just type double, this is a text, but JavaScript doesn't know that this is a text. It will complain. Why is it complaining? Because it's thinking that this thing is variable. I will talk about the variable in the next class. But why is it thinking that it is a variable? Because that's why it's saying it's not defined. So what is not defined? Why is it telling me that double is not defined? Even though it is the text that I want to type there. It's the text double that I want to type. It's because here, the way we represent text is different from the way you represent number or the way you represent it in the normal sense there. So in order for JavaScript to think that this thing is a text, you either put it in a double quote like this, now it will work, or you put it in a single quote, or you use a backtick, and backtick is the key that is beside one on your keyboard there. So the key that comes before that one, that's where you're going to have the backtick. Once you click on it, it will bring it out. So here you can actually put it like this, and as you can see, it's working the way we're expecting it to work there. And I just mentioned it now again that anything that you have in a quote are not number. Any number you have in a quote, any number you have in a quote is not number. So which means here, 2 here is not 2. It's not normal 2. This is a string 2 or text 2. This one is just normal text, but it's 2 to you, but it's a text. It's not number. In order for it to be number, you need to type it like this, because the operation that you are going to perform on normal number is not the same thing you are going to get when you are dealing with string like this. So if I put it like this, can you see what it's doing? Here it add them together by giving us 8, but here now it's saying it is 35. What is going on there? It's just joining them together, because this is a string, it's not number, and the operation you perform on string is not the same operation that you perform on normal number. And that's the reason you need to know the types we have, so that by the time you are working later on, you not be blaming JavaScript that it is doing something else, even though you type something is not doing something else for you. No, it's because you are not using the correct type. So when you want to work with JavaScript there, you need to work with the correct type of the value that is going to give you the results that you are expecting there, like that. So number, you don't use any code there. But once you have code, it is now text, which is what we call string, like that. And the other type that we have there is this boolean. So other types, we have a boolean, and the type here only have these two values, true or false. And these are the stuff that you are going to be using later on to represent something, whether that thing is giving you yes or no. When something is yes, it will return true, and when something is no, it will return false. And these are the two values that you can use to represent whether something is okay or it is not okay. So for example, here now, are we going outside? The answer is going to be yes or no. But here there is nothing like yes and there's nothing like no. What we have there is either this true or false. When something is true, do this. When something is false, do other stuff. Or when something is true, that's when I want you to do something like this. Or when something is false, that's where I want you to do other stuff like that. So we use boolean to represent whether something is okay or is not okay, or whether something is yes or is not yes, or whether something is good or it's bad there. For example, here, is my age greater than 10? What you get there is either yes or no. But there's nothing like yes or no. What we use is true or false. So when something is okay, you receive true. When it is not okay, you receive false here. And how do we represent them? We use true to represent when something is okay, and we use false to represent when it is the other way round, like that. And you are going to be seeing all this in being used later on. For example, here now, if I quickly use 5 greater than 3, as you can see what is coming out, is bringing out true. Or if I use 5 is less than 3, can you see what is coming out? And that's the reason why you need all this in. But I'll be talking about this symbol when we get to this operator. As you can see here, it's going to be part of this comparison here. And I don't know why this thing is not included. This AI just generates nonsense for me. I'll update this stuff, but it's supposed to be here, like that. But look at the value that is coming back. Is either true or false based on whether that thing is okay, is not okay. Because there's no way you say 5 is greater than there's no way you say that 5 is less than 3. 5 is greater than 3, yes. So your answer is yes. Since your answer is yes, what you are going to get is true. But is 5 less than 3? No. So you don't say no. What you said is false. So, and what is the type of this type of value here? It is known as boolean. And the other one that we have here is this null and undefined, which is what we use to represent something that doesn't exist or doesn't have any value. So when you don't have any value, or you can't really associate the particular value to any type, we have this null or undefined that you are going to be seeing a lot later on to represent that something you are looking for, it can't find it or it doesn't exist. For example, here now, maybe I'm looking for something on the page later on, like that. If I look for something and that thing is not on the screen, you see that what is going to return back is null. So look at it here now. It's telling us that what I'm trying to look for on the screen, it can't find it. And since that thing is not on the page, as you can see, what is returning is null. Some of them is going to be undefined when you're trying to access something that is not on the page. For example, now if I do double now, can you see what the JavaScript is saying? It's not defined. So it's telling me that what I'm trying to do right now is not defined. Like that. And we normally use all these things to represent something that doesn't a value that is not associated with any of the value that you already know, or that thing doesn't exist, or the browser cannot find what you are looking for. The type of the value there is going to either be this undefined or this null, just like what I just showed you now. I'm looking for h6 on the page, but because there is no h6 on the page, as you can see what it returned null for me. But assuming I did it with something that is on the page, you see that I'm going to get what I'm looking. Can you see now? I was able to get the H1, but here I did not get H6 because it's not on the screen. And this is not on the screen, is returning back null. But here now that we can get H1, as you can see that I was able to get that H1 that is on the screen here. So later on, when you started interacting with the content on the page, if that thing is not there, this is what you get, null or undefined. And if that thing is here, you get that element back and you can now do whatever you want to do on the element. But before you start doing all this thing, you need to know all the types that we have there by starting with this basic type, which is this number. We have string, we have boolean to represent whether something is true or false, or to represent whether something is yes or no, and so forth like that. And again, we have this null or undefined to represent something that doesn't exist, or something that is you are looking for on the page, but that thing is not there, or you want to do something on that element, but that element doesn't have what you want to do there. What you get here is this null or undefined here, which represents something that doesn't exist, or it's not defined on that particular element that you are interacting with at that moment. And this is where I'm going to be stopping here for this class, because I don't want this to go more than this hour there like that. So today we're able to talk about how we can include JavaScript on our page by using this internal and external method. We talk about the console and the console log there that you can use to send a message to the console on the browser, which is what we are currently using here, to see the result of some of the stuff that I've been talking about since. Because right now we don't know how to interact with the content on the page. We still need to see the result of what is going on. How do we see the result? You can use the console to test your JavaScript there. And from your code, how do we send the message to the browser so that we can see it from the console here? We need to use our console log, which is the tooling that the browser is giving us to send a message to the browser console so that we can see everything that is inside our code on the console here like that. Again, we talk about the comment, and at the same time we talk about some of these basic type like the number, the string, the boolean, and this null or undefined. So in the next class, I'll be talking about variable, talking about operators, and talking about this complex type. And the other class that is going to follow that one, we're jumping into the DOM directly, because I want to move fast so that we can get to the part where we'll be modifying the content on the screen. But just because I'll be moving fast doesn't mean you've already known everything. I will only give you the basic stuff, but as we'll be modifying the content of the page later on, we start going back to some stuff that we jump over so that we can now use them where they are required, not just explain a lot of them that are not required for the starting there. I will only explain the one that you need for the starting. Then when you get to the part that you need the advanced one, then I'm going to bring them in like that. So in the next class, there's a lot of things I want to treat it like I'm going to be treating there like that, which is going to be this variable, operators, complex type like this array, and function there, and which is going to be Wednesday. And on Thursday, we are jumping into this DOM, straightforward. Please make it possible for me to be able to do this thing within the class, because I'm going to be moving fast so that everything we can learn them properly. Please use network that is going to be stable so that there won't be anything like a back and forth, like I can't hear you, I can't see you, all this, so that there won't be any kind of a pause that will be wasting our time there. So this is why we'll stop in there. I'm going to upload the video, and you can go there to watch again. And that's this one we're having the video, so that in case there is any kind of a glitch, you go back to the video and watch that part, not that we stop and we'll not be able to do too much there like that. So it's already 1 hour 90 minutes, and I don't want it to reach 1 hour 30 minutes. So that will be all. Thank you guys. See you in the next class.